Draftstars crew, we are back for round 5. I hope you did really well in round 4. Plenty of the selections came out and had a cracker. There's probably one or two games there where there was big swings either way, especially that last one. If you decided to free up some cash for Nico Hines, you absolutely would have dominated there. So, yeah, well done on last week, and I hope we have a cracker in this one. Let's start with the Roosters beat the Eels for our Thursday night matchup. And outside backs is going to be a fun one because we have some of these Roosters guys not scoring as well as you would have hoped there. You've got Tedesco averaging 40 so far. So I do think he's going to improve week to week. Is this week the one? I'm not exactly sure. So I think you can go down to guys like Penasini, who have been playing super well at the moment. Suoli'i is another one that's at that cheap price at 11,000. You could potentially go for him, but he's very much that sort of boom or bust type of player with, scores in the 63s, and then you've got two mid-20s. So definitely a risk in that one. And Teddy, if you do have the extra cash available, could be the play in that one. Let's move to the halves and the hookers, and someone like Mitch Moses or Sam Walker are clearly the play in this one. Both those guys averaging over 60, Moses over 70 in this one. So they're the two guys you want to look at the moment. Guys like Brendan Hands you could look at as a flex type of guy, but really overall, I think it's just any of those top two are the way to go in this one. In our forwards, Jermaine Hopgood has one low score in his game, and has been super great. 66 is lowest out of those 3 games where he's done really well. So he's at 18k, and if you get him scoring that high, then he's going to be perfect for your squad. It'd be him or Madison in that top bracket, and then lower from there, you've still got a few guys averaging 50 here at 16k, and Bryce Cartwright and Campbell Gillard. They can both do a job for you. And then, very sneakily, someone like Victor Radley, very up and down, a 20 and then a 55. So if he comes out and plays the big minutes, then he'll do well for your squad there. Anything lower than that, I don't think it's worth it. Matt Dury playing off the bench. Unless he gets a start, I think you need to avoid him in this one. Let's move to the next game there is the Raiders and the Panthers. And Dylan Edwards continues to do great work here for those Panthers and averaging 59 in that first bunch there. So he could be a great one for you. Matt Tomoko, I think, at 13k is the play if you're looking at any of the Raiders. And then Sunya Taruva there coming off a really nice game last week where they kicked to him the whole time. He's been pretty consistent. 28 to 41 are his lowest, his 3 games there. So, yeah, at under 10k, if he can get a 40 for you, that would be great. So whether you play him as your second option or you play him in the flex, could be the play there. Brian To'o at 14,000. Averaging 40, doing better week to week, so 48 and 45. If you can get that from one of your outside backs, you'd be very happy. But do you spend up at Nathan Cleary at 24,000? That is the big question mark. He's very expensive at 24,000, but an 85 last week. If you can get that from that price, it's exactly what you're looking for. And you may have to go a little bit cheaper elsewhere. Jamal Foggs is the next guy on the list. Comes back after having an illness last week and got a 62. But I am worried how the Raiders are going to fare in this one, especially with how they have been playing very well. The Panthers have been average, but haven't come up against a lesser side yet. So this could be the week. But Mitch Kenny there, he's going to get that 80 minutes. So him at 10,600. Again, whether you decide to pick him in the flex or you go here in the halves and the hookers, he's the guy you need to pop in your side so that you can spend the money elsewhere on guys like Isaiah Yeo, Tarpanet, or Hudson Young. They're 3 guys I think you should look to select. Fisher Harris had an absolute banger last week, got 66, and he's coming off some really good scores as well. So he's the consistent guy in this list, but the must-have this week is Zach Hosking. A 96 last week, we won't expect that, but a 50 to 60, pretty comfortable under 14k there for sure. Corey Horsburgh coming off a couple of tries a few weeks ago. He came back down to earth a little bit. Scott Sorensen gets to start this week in the 11 jersey on the edge. So him getting 80 minutes, you'd expect a 40 at least there. So he's a good one to pop in your side. And other than that, you've got the cheap guys in Solo, Gula, and also Lanu, who can get you about that 30 mark, which would be okay. So plenty of good options up top, plenty in the cheap positions there. In the outside backs for the South v Storm game, we have Latrell coming off a bit of a low one. So do you decide to pick him up against this Storm side, looking to come out and improve on their last bunch of outings, that's for sure. Isaiah Tass or Campbell Graham are the 2 guys I'd be looking at. Really, you'd be expecting a 40 plus from either of those guys. Campbell Graham has low scores in his game than higher ones. So depending if you want the boom potential in Graham or you want the consistency in Isaiah Tass, that is how you should look at this one. Warbrick, if you think that the Storm guys can come out and do well, he would be a guy that he's a guy that I selected last week as a great option against the Tigers. This is a different assignment this week, so yeah, maybe you spend up a little bit more in this position just for some safety there. Halves and Orcas, you've got plenty of options. You've got Grant Cook and Munster up top, and then Lockie Ilias had a really good game last week at 12.5k. He got 59 with only 1 try assist there. Big kick meters, which was great. And Jonah Pezzett. I think either one of those two would be the play this week. Pezzett's had a couple of attacking stats, which has helped him, but at 10,000, you only need to get over 30, and it's worth it in your side. So one of those two are the starting with, and then potentially the other for your flex position if you can't go heavy up top with all those guys that are going to play pretty well regardless. In your forwards there, Keon Kolomatangi has been the guy at that slightly cheaper price than Murray, and I would pick the same this week. Murray has to start playing a little bit better soon. We're used to seeing mid-60s from him, and he's only getting that 58 in his recent form, and then 60 in the average total. Eli Katoa is almost scoring as much, but I think he's a little bit too expensive this week, especially when you can go for guys like Josh King, who I said was a cracking option last week. He had a 67, so that was great. And then guys like Trent Leoro, who really got into his work last week, ran the ball plenty, picked up a 53.7. So he's another cheap guy that I would be looking to select if you have him as an option on your side. Cheekham got some big minutes again off the bench and picked up a 40, so he's another solid option at 10k, but just be aware that he shouldn't be getting the big minutes that he got last week there. Let's move to the Knights and the Manly Sea Eagles. And in our outside backs, I think you just clearly have to go for Tommy. He didn't score as well last week. Unfortunately, he didn't pick up that potential try, but that is okay. That happens sometimes. And we know that he's more that boom or bust, and I'm expecting a 60 or 70 from him this week. Guys like Garrick and Marzu, I think are other great options. Marzu coming off at 84, so we saw him as a potential option last week. I doubt him, Gagai, and those guys score as well this week, but still an awesome guy to potentially select as that boom or bust guy if the Knights can hold their own. That's the big worry. Can they keep up with Manly, or are they going to get beat pretty badly? I think Jaden Brayley is a guy that you need to look at selecting. He's going to tackle hard, so anything over 50 at that price at 19k will be safe, but do you want do you want to gamble in your side? Something like someone like Tyson, who has scored okay. 32 last week. Wasn't too special, but again, at that price, you're not looking for anything crazy. Really, DCE is going to be your big play. Lockie Croker returns this week. Schuster, I'm a little bit worried about being able to score super well each week, but a 35 for him, kind of doing his job around that price. Let's move to the forwards there, and we've got Fitzgibbon, who's our most consistent guy, and I'll be looking to select him again as a consistent player if you really want that. But you've got guys like Frizzell and Leo Thompson at a much cheaper rate there. Frizzell obviously scoring super well last week with a 73, which is great news for him. Leo Thompson's been super consistent, averaging 45, and you can see that his lowest score is a 40 for the year, which is awesome. Paseka averaging 39 is great for him. And then you've got Matt Croker off the bench and Sean Kepi, who I think are clearly options in your side. I'd be getting Croker and Kepi in there, and then you can spend up on DCE and Trbojevic in that one. I think this is a pretty easy game to go with. Got those cheap guys that are going to score 35 plus and then go nuts in the other position. So a very, very easy game to select, I think. So I wish you all best of luck in that one. Dragons and the Dolphins, we're halfway through. In our outside backs there, it's a very awkward one because guys like Hamiso are probably the plays you want to take in this one. I'd be going for Dolphins outside backs over the St. George ones, just with how they've been leaking points, especially late in games. It could turn around with the Dragons being at home in this one, but I still expect decent scores out of Hamiso, out of Ewan Aiken in this one, who's starting to play better. That would be where I'd chuck my money. And then Ravalawa continues to still score okay. Just had a shocker last week with how bad the whole Dragon side went. But I'd be picking Dolphins outside backs in that one. Jeremy Marshall-King returns, but he's very expensive. So you're looking at big kick meters from someone like Milford. He came in and played the majority of that game when, well, he played the game in general, but kicked a lot more when Sean O'Sullivan went injured. So 20 minutes in, he hadn't kicked for the rest of it. So for him, he's probably priced too high, to be honest with you. Like at 40, 45, he's probably going to get. I think you can do better. And, maybe Isaiah Katoa is the guy this week that could kind of sort of split those kick meters and the control of the side at 9,700. Could be the play. But maybe it's Ben Hunt or Jeremy Marshall-King. It's a super tough halves and hookers. I wouldn't be picking more than one player in that section, that's for sure. In their forwards, there's much better options here. I think Tom Gilbert will have a bounce back, and Blake Laurie's playing huge minutes. So Laurie's probably the guy that you select. 45 is his lowest at that price of 17.8. He's a good one for your side. Mark Nichols continues to do well. He had a low one a couple of weeks ago, but back into the 40s for him. At that price is great. And then Connolly Lemuelu was a great option last week, and I think he's a great option again. Hasn't gone up too much in price for how he's performing, and I think he can do a job. Guys like Jared Wallace as well, coming off a try for him, could be the play, given he's really cheap at 10,800. So 35 2 weeks ago, and a nice 60 last week. Move to the Broncos and the West Tigers here. Outside backs, Dewey in there. You're coming off an okay score at 38. That's 2 in a row where he's gone pretty low, and I think you need to go for this trio here. Farnworth, Walsh, and Staggs, all scoring well, all similar price. Staggs probably gives you a little bit more opportunity to spend money elsewhere, but I think you probably need to go for like a Walshy or a Farnworth there. Asu Kapoa there is scoring well, whether he's in the centres or the back row. So I think he's a guy that if they do have someone in the outside backs to score well, he is that man. We go to the halves and the hookers, and I think Reynolds due for a big bounce back. We spoke about popping him in your side last week. He did okay at 39, but the first half was a shocker for him, and I think he'll be much better overall, but there's just so much drop ball in that game. So Reynolds to put on some tries, get plenty of kick meters in this one against the Tigers. You got Api Coruscant, who has scored well the last couple of games, but yeah, 40 for him. Is that enough of consistency to pop in your side? I don't think so. Really, in this one, I think it's just clearly Adam Reynolds, and then spend the money, go a little bit cheaper. Somewhere in the middle forwards here, we've got Payne Haas at 22,000, been playing super well. Whether you go him now as that kind of banker, or you go for someone like Bateman, could be the way. Looks like he is going to deal with a bit of a rib injury, but it didn't stop him last week, and will it stop him in this one? Polak continues to score well. He's averaging 39 now, and I think 46 and 48 shows that he can continue to do that. At 12k might be the play you need to make, because there's not a lot of cracking, cheap options here. You've got obviously Corey Jensen. You've got guys like Tom Flegler under 14k who are scoring okay, and that might be the way to play it with guys like Stefano Utoikamanu as well, because it's going to be very hard to spend big outside backs, halves and hookers, and forwards. A much tougher matchup in that one compared to the one before. Outside backs for this Sharks Warriors game, you can see all the big money guys are in this Sharks team, and I don't blame you for selecting any of those guys. You got Violaos coming off a really big game, and so there's every chance he can do it again, but it's not something that he's a regular in, and that's scoring well. Definitely doesn't happen for him on the regular. Marcelo Montoya, again, big score the game before, but I think you need to go for outside backs here. Jesse Ramian, I spoke about as being a cracking option last week, and he got the 73, so I hope that helped you guys out there. And then from there, you have Talakai Malatalo. Kennedy continues to score tries. I think you need to select Ramian as your most important one there. Another big score coming from him. Nico Hines is going to be really hard to leave out, but Sean Johnson has been scoring so well also. So maybe you can try and get both of them in, and then you go a slightly expensive one in Ramian and go pretty cheap in Kennedy or Chance, who continues to get some nice base stats, and you might have to spend a little bit less in those forwards. So we see the big number guys here. Tohu Harris coming off an injury. I'd avoid him. Nikora or Wilton, both those guys are going to do well. I'd expect to try for at least one of them in this one. But I think you're going to have to go pretty cheap. And guys like Jackson Ford are a must-have in this one if you're going cheap. And then you've got, obviously, Hamlin Ueli, who's averaging 38. So if you can get him at 10,000, that'll be great. And then you might have to bank on one of those cheaper 9 to 10,000 guys, in Royce Hunt or Jackie Williams to get some decent minutes there. Dylan Walker continues to play big minutes through the middle and does well there. So maybe 3 cheap forwards, so you can go Johnson and for Nico Hines there as well. Let's finish this last one, the Dogs v the Cowboys. And it's a very, very interesting one, given my Cowboys haven't been playing super well. I think Karaz needs to be another guy that you select very clearly as your best outside back option. And then probably cheaper from there, and guys like Hayes Perham or Paul Alamotti. I don't think you can go wrong either one of them, or Jake Averillo there. That would be my play in the outside backs. Val Holmes is there, but how good's he going at the moment? Just okay, and with the Cowboys not dominating, that's how I'd play it. In this one, you go for Townsend, you go for Reed Marnie in this one. That's very clear they're the two options. I think Burton, you need to give a little bit more time. He obviously had a good one 2 games ago with 67. So a 51 last week was okay. Can he do that again? Or can Reid Marnie get back to the scores of the games before? So Burton or Reid if you're going for a Dogs player. And then Townsend has been super consistent for the Cows, even though they haven't been playing super well. Okay, we move to the forwards now. And we just found out that Maxi King's been dealing with a ruptured plantar fasciitis, is what he's dealing with, but he's ruptured it. So very interesting there. So Maxi King is the most expensive guy. He's averaging the best, but is he a guy that you select? I'm not sure. Ryan Sutton, Hylam Lukey, 2 options here. Hylam gets to 80 minutes to look like this week. So he got a 34 last week. Expect 40 to 45 from him at a minimum if he doesn't score a try, which would be good. Other than that, I mentioned Griffin Neem last week, but he played big minutes and didn't score so well. So really, you'd expect to bounce back, but 24 wasn't enough. And a 13K, he's too expensive this one. So it's a bit of an awkward one in the forwards at the moment in this game. So really, you probably have to go up for some of these more consistent guys. So the Prestons, he's very expensive now, but Preston or Max King, and then going to Lukey, to a Sutton, to someone like Jordan McLean, who's been consistent at that 42.8 average there. So good luck with Draftstars, guys. If you haven't signed up yet, get in the description. The link is there. Just tells the Draftstars guys that you've come here from my channel, so that really helps me. So big thanks to you all for watching, and I wish you all the best of luck in round 5 of the NRL.